Hi, I'm Kalki Kekla, and I'm here once again with something special for you, a new episode of Kalki Presents My Indian Life. And I think you're going to love it because we bring some amazing stories of Indians from all over the country. So please let us know your thoughts on social media. This is the video version, but you can find the audio version by just downloading a streaming app or a podcast app and looking for My Indian Life. Thank you for joining us.
It was something that always puzzled Suyash as a child. Every month, for around 3 or 4 days, he couldn't meet his mother, even though both of them lived in the same house. On those days, his mother would stay away from everyone and isolate herself. Suyash didn't understand why. Everyone else in his house, his father, his younger brother, his grandparents, would just go along with it. They behaved like it was absolutely normal. His mother wouldn't enter the prayer room. She wouldn't enter the kitchen. All she was allowed to do was wash the dishes and clothes. She'd do that and return to her room and stay there for the rest of the day. Suyash found this very strange. When he tried to find out why his mother was on this short-term self-imposed exile, his family would tell him, "Mummy ko kawe ne choo liya." A crow has touched his mother. So he should also stay away from her. But the explanation wasn't something that made sense to Suyash. He used to ask his mother when the crow had touched her and where did this happen. He hadn't seen it, he says. He used to then try and keep an eye on her to see when the crow was going to come and touch her. His mother would dismiss his questions, but Suyash's head was bursting with them. What crow was this and what was going to happen? Was there any way to get his mother out of this conundrum? Should he do something? Could he? It was only when he was in high school, when Suyash was a teenager, that he understood what was actually happening. He learned about menstruation and the monthly cycle that a woman goes through. Suyash figured out that his mother was being forced to stay away from everyone when she was on her period. Why? Well, many of us will have come across this belief held in many homes in our country, even to this day, that a woman on her period is impure and needs to stay away from everyone. It's a superstition that is quite widely prevalent across India. Women on their period aren't allowed to enter the kitchen, go near idols or pictures of gods. In some houses, they're also given a separate place to sleep and different utensils for food and water. The poor crow is just a ruse, a metaphor, a symbol that everyone uses. It's an easy explanation to give to children, to scare them away without having to explain the superstition, or even just to talk about a woman's period. A topic that many homes still find uncomfortable to discuss. And for adults, the crow is a reminder, a code for the superstition that they believe in, about a menstruating woman's impurity. Suyash says he found the entire thing very odd and bizarre. What was even going on? A woman's menstrual cycle is a natural cycle, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like there's a risk of an infection to others or anything like that. And yet she was isolating from everyone. He says God shouldn't be differentiating between genders, right? I mean, just because she's a woman, she has different rules than men. Of course, he had never seen a man isolate himself like this. In a strange way, this little investigation that he carried out as a teenager about the neighborhood crow came full circle. Because today, Suyash Toshniwal identifies as a rationalist. I know what you're thinking, and I thought the same. What exactly is a rationalist? Well, Suyash says he busts superstitions and myths in villages across Maharashtra. He is part of an organization that claims there are men and women who cheat people by saying they can perform miracles in the name of God. The work of Suyash's organization, he says, is to expose them. His work involves pushing people to think for themselves and give a voice to their curiosity. This is the story of a young man who wants to champion every human being's rational side. I'm Kalki Kekla. From the BBC World Service, this is Kalki Presents My Indian Life, the podcast about being young and Indian in the 21st century. Season 3, Episode 6, Mythbreaker. Right from his childhood, Suyash thought differently from the others around him. He grew up in a family that was ardently pious, like many families in India. They began and ended the day by praying, chanting the names of the many gods in the Hindu pantheon. They believed that good things happened to them because of God's blessings, and consequently, bad things happened because the gods were displeased. As a young child, Suyash believed all of this too and followed what the elders in his family preached. But then, gradually, he started to become a bit skeptical.
Whenever people say God takes care of everyone or treats everyone equally or can solve our problems, I started to feel that these things weren't really true. I couldn't see equality around me. I didn't actually see God solving problems or interfering in people's lives.
His mother used to tell him that before his exams, he should pray to God and seek blessings. This way, he would get good marks. One day, Suyash decided to test this hypothesis. He studied hard for one exam, and for the next exam, he didn't bother studying and just prayed to God and said, "Can you please handle this and get me passed?"
So obviously that didn't work.
This was Suyash, a child innocently challenging the tenets of the world around him. But what he didn't anticipate was that as he grew older, his skepticism would only become stronger.
I was convinced that maybe God only exists in our minds or in our temples. We have to take charge of our own lives. We have to decide what we'll do, what our dreams are, and how we'll have to work hard to realize them.
This change in attitude worried his parents, and Suyash's fading faith in God led to heated family arguments. Suyash's friends would also tell him to stop driving himself crazy with these radical thoughts. There was one professor in school, however, who did understand Suyash's curiosity and mistrust. The professor and Suyash also had one thing in common. All the other students made fun of the professor and, like they did with Suyash, also labeled him as different.
There was this one history professor, and I really liked everything he would say. His thought process or decision making, or how he'd explain the rationale behind different things. You know, back then in Maharashtra, there were reports that idols of Lord Ganesh were suddenly drinking milk, but he explained the science behind that phenomenon to us.
This was back in 1995, and India's newspapers and television channels had gone crazy trying to cover this piece of news. There were reports that an idol had developed this lifelike ability to drink milk. Everyone was talking about it, and people thronged temples and stood in long queues to witness the phenomenon. Many of them were also carrying bottles and packets of milk to feed Ganesh idols. In the midst of all this activity, there was one man who appeared on television and radio, saying that this wasn't a miracle, that God or the idol wasn't magically drinking milk, but that there was a scientific explanation for what was happening. That man was Narendra Dabholkar, a renowned rationalist who was known for his ardent campaign against what he claimed to be blind belief and superstition. Dabholkar said that it was because of simple physics that it appears as if the idols were drinking milk. He said this was capillary action and surface tension which made it look like the idols were drinking milk. You know, like a blotting paper sucking up ink. But while this explanation appealed to a few people, many others continued to believe that a miracle had indeed occurred, that the idols were actually drinking milk. Suyash had heard of Dabholkar, but he didn't know too much about his work. In an interesting twist of fate, a few years later, Suyash's path would cross with Dabholkar's. And for Suyash, it would feel like his entire life had been building up to it. It all happened when Suyash was an engineering student in Islampur in Maharashtra. Suyash even remembers the date.
मुझे वो दिन भी याद है 6 जनवरी 2014 को.
January 6th, 2014. He was volunteering with the National Service Scheme, and they had organized an event which was titled Exposing the Miraculous Claims of Babas. Suyash sat in the audience and watched as Sanjay Bhansode and Dr. Nitin Shinde, two rationalists, began their lecture. Sanjay Bhansode spoke first.
तो सर पीपीटी पे सेशन ले
He showed us a presentation. He took each video and explained what was happening. He would also demonstrate some of these so-called miracles. His presentation gave me goosebumps.
रोंगटे खड़े हो रहे थे.
The first video that Sanjay Bhansode showed was about this man called Aslam Baba. He died in 2020, but had been quite renowned in the region, especially in Sangli. His claim to fame was that he had a cure for every illness. When people went to him, the first thing they saw were these old iron foldable chairs, and lots of them, arranged in a sequence.
कोई भी बीमार पेशेंट
So whenever a patient came to him, say you came to him and said you had a stomachache, he would make you sit on one of those chairs and he would hit your stomach with a chair until you screamed and said that your pain had disappeared. Then he would stop and everyone would hail him as a miraculous healer.
और उसकी जय जयकार हो जाएगी.
Aslam Baba also claimed that he could perform heart surgery. I'm not kidding. And this was unlike anything Suyash had ever seen. Mr. Bansode showed them a video of Aslam Baba allegedly performing heart surgery on a man right in the middle of a huge crowd. The crowd is singing songs, and this Baba gets the patient to lie down on a table. He has no medical equipment in his hands. He takes a paper and keeps it on the man's chest and starts beating it.
और उसका जो चेला
And
था,
his assistant would stealthily hand him a piece of meat and he would show it to everyone, saying the operation was successful. Even the patient who was being operated on would stand up rejoicing and would fall at his
पैर
feet.
पड़ रहा है उसके.
That night in Islampur, Sanjay Bansode showed examples of many such men and women and told his audience about how they use sleight of hand to hoodwink people. Suyash was shocked and stunned. Mr. Bansode also spoke about a man who was famous for his ability to produce a gold chain out of thin air. I've seen videos of these things. The man stands up and gathers his fingers in a fist, rotates his arm in front of him a couple of times, and after about 4 or 5 rotations, he stops, and lo and behold, he produces a gold chain, just like that, out of thin air. Then he hands it to his guest of honor while the audience gapes at the entire miracle. But Suyash says he has an explanation for how the man was producing this gold chain out of thin air. In fact, he demonstrated it for me.
देखिए,
So, picture this. Suyash is standing in front of me and showing me his palms, and, well, there's nothing in them.
हाथ में कुछ नहीं है. You don't have anything, huh?
Once I'm convinced, he then starts rotating his arms clockwise and anti-clockwise. I think I've seen magicians do this before, the big reveal.
Wow. Gold chain. अभी मुझे एक जिराफ चाहिए सर.
He actually produced a gold chain out of nowhere. How is it possible? I was only 2 meters away from him. There was no way he could have hidden it anywhere in his palm or, in the sleeves of his shirt.
फिर से धीरे धीरे करो. फिर से करो.
So I asked Suyash to perform the same act again, a little more slowly this time.
अच्छा ठीक है. हाथ ऐसे क्यों आपके हाथ पीछे करो. नहीं है.
I ask him to show me his hands after every rotation. I look closely. I ask him to turn his palms around, and suddenly, I notice the secret behind the trick.
अच्छा हाथ हम में है. मिल गया.
जो चीजें छुपाई जा सकती है,
हाँ.
वही निकाल सकते हैं.
There's a fake thumb you put the chain inside. Very nice.
Suyash had a fake thumb-like appendage that was attached to his fingers, which carried the gold chain. Wow.
तो ये देख के लगा कि यार ये तो मतलब हम
When I saw all this, I really wondered how on one hand we are advancing scientifically, but on the other hand, hundreds of thousands of people are falling prey to superstitions. There is no way we can progress if we are stuck with this
हमारी
mindset.
प्रोग्रेस ही नहीं हो पाएगी.
That night in Islampur, after his demonstration, Sanjay Bansode told his audience that he worked with an organization called Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti, or MANS, which literally translates as Committee for the Eradication of Blind Faith in Maharashtra. This organization aims to debunk what it says is superstition, blind faith, and myths. Volunteers with this organization go around villages in Maharashtra conducting demonstrations and explain the science or the sleight of hand behind it. Sometimes they even directly challenge the miracle men and women. The organization was founded by Narendra Dabholkar. Remember, the man who had an explanation for the milk-drinking idols? Dabholkar had created MANS in 1989 and had worked as a rationalist for more than 2 decades. On August 20th, 2013, just a few months before Suyash attended Mr. Bansode's lecture in Islampur, Dabholkar was on his morning walk when he was shot dead by 2 men on a motorbike. Dabolkar had been getting death threats for a while and had been asked to stop interfering with religion, faith, and superstitions. But he had continued his campaign. In fact, he had been trying to get the state of Maharashtra to pass legislation against superstition too. Suyash had heard about MANS before, but they weren't good things.
I didn't know too much about Dabholkar's organization. All I had heard was that they received foreign funds and worked for Christian missionaries and that they were working against the Hindu religion. So I didn't have a very good opinion about them.
Suyash had also heard about Dabolkar's killing, but after Mr. Bansode's lecture, the impact of his death hit differently.
I mean, if these are guys who are exposing these miracle men who are exploiting people in the name of faith, then that work should be celebrated. Instead, their leader is killed. I was quite hurt. I felt bad that this happened.
After the lecture, Suyash didn't sleep well for 3 days. He was anguished by what he saw and couldn't make his peace with it. This was a cause he felt strongly about. Maybe this was his chance to do something about it. He got in touch with Sanjay Bansode and told him that he would like to be a part of MANS. Mr. Bansode welcomed him and asked him to start by attending the volunteers meeting every Monday. That was it. Suyash then became an active member of MANS and has been working as a rationalist ever since. Once he joined MANS, Suyash's understanding of rationalism became deeper and more nuanced. He trained as a rationalist by accompanying his seniors on their field trips and demonstrations, and slowly, he started to feel that rationalism is quite innate in us human beings. It isn't something that needs to be learned.
For instance, take the case of a small child or a toddler. They first learn by observing things around them. They see things first, then try to imitate. They are filled with curiosity. Everything they see, a car or a buffalo, they immediately ask what those things are, what they do, and so on. And if I say a buffalo gives us milk, then there's a new question. How? They're filled with so many questions. I think that's how a rationalist starts. If their questions are answered properly, then the child continues to dig deeper. But if those questions are dismissed, then that curiosity is just suppressed.
Suyash says this isn't about religion. India is a land of so many religions, many respected spiritual leaders. Rationalism isn't the same as atheism. He says he has nothing against religion and isn't asking people to give up their gods. He says what he is questioning are what he claims are misleading or false things people are told, especially those that could cause harm to themselves and others.
If someone is religious and has faith in God and does all their work properly and ethically, then I think they are rationalists.
Often, when rationalists like Suyash go to people and claim in front of them that the miracle man they've believed in for so long is actually cheating them, their reaction isn't positive. But Suyash has learnt over time that he can only lay the facts and evidence as he sees them in front of people. What they choose to do with it is up to them. Sometimes people come up to him after a session with more questions, and on other occasions, they just walk away and continue doing what they've always believed in. Suyash has a theory for why so many people are drawn to miracles and superstition in our country.
Dr. Dabholkar has an explanation for this in his book. He writes that our country's population is so huge and nearly everyone goes through ups and downs. When the going is good, everything's fine. But when things get difficult, everyone yearns for emotional and psychological support to get through it.
He believes there are just not enough doctors or counselors in India. Sometimes families and friends do this kind of caregiving, but they're not always around. Suyash calls this the work of absorbing shock and argues that there are just not enough shock absorbers in our society.
That's where these miracle men thrive. They do this work of absorbing shock, but only temporarily. They give their followers the impression that their pain will be reduced, that their sadness will go away if they do what they say.
As I listened to Suyash speak, I kept thinking, isn't his work scary? I mean, the head of the organization that he's a part of was killed.
The fact that Dabholkar was killed was a huge trigger for me to join MANS. I couldn't understand how that could happen. It pained me. And I felt that I need to stand up for him.
तो ऐसे इसमें हमें खड़ा होना चाहिए. हमारा ये क्लियर है कि हम किसी धर्म के खिलाफ नहीं हैं.
I'm not doing anything wrong. Why should I be scared?
के खिलाफ नहीं हैं.
I'm clear that I'm not against any religion or person. I'm only against those who cause harm in the name of religion.
बात करना चाहते हैं.
Being a rationalist has even improved Suyash's relationship with his family. Today, he's able to understand why they believe in their God and their religion. But he's also able to present his contradictory opinion in a kind and composed manner to them. And his parents, too, have warmed up to the fact that Suyash has his own belief system. Suyash has learnt over time that in his line of work, he cannot expect change in the short term.
मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि
It's not like this work will be done in 10 years or even in 100 years. Dr. Dabholkar himself said that this is not a fight that will last decades, this will last centuries.
की ये पूरी लड़ाई है.
Things like this will definitely take
तो
time.
इसको टाइम तो लगेगा ही.
He knows he might never see things change in his lifetime, but for him, that change is still worth fighting for. In the next episode of Kalki Presents My Indian Life, The Boy Who Wanted to Be Invisible. Shubham Chaudhary was bullied as a child for not being masculine enough. Traumatized, he wanted to disappear until he saw a photograph online that changed his life.
It was like for the first time in my life, I felt like I belong, with a bunch of people. And that's a very amazing feeling to have, that you're not alone.
Kalki Presents My Indian Life is an All Things Small production for the BBC World Service. I hope you've been enjoying listening to Season 3 so far. If you like this podcast, please hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast app. You can find us on BBC World Service on Twitter and Facebook. Or use the hashtag MyIndianLife with your comments and suggestions. Thanks for listening. This season of Kalki Presents My Indian Life has been researched, scripted, and produced by Archana Nathan. Gaurav Vaz is our executive producer. Our audio producer is Sachi Rajadhyaksh, with editing support by Nikhil Rao. The podcast was mixed and mastered by Ayan De.